to the Sexpert Panel on Disabilities and Intimacy. I'm Dr. Ava Cadell. I'm founder of Loveology University, and I'm your moderator with this amazing panel of sexperts, beginning with Dr. Mitchell Tepper. He's an author, a researcher, and it's such an honor to have you here because I know how busy you are doing your groundbreaking research, which includes orgasm, right, with women with spinal cord injuries. And then also I know you work with wounded veterans. So can you actually tell us more about yourself and the work that you do?
All right. Well, first, I got into this work because I broke my neck in 1982 and was working as a lifeguard at the time. And sexuality was very important for me. And so my whole period in rehabilitation was searching for answers. So, you know, I did my own sexual rehabilitation and I just took it to a different level. You know, my curiosity led to, you know, dropping my work in business and in public health and going right into getting a PhD in human sexuality. And during that time, I did research with people, you know, I'm sure, Dr. Beverly Whipple, who is the G-spot lady, and Dr. Barry Komisarek on studying orgasm on women with complete spinal cord injuries in the lab. And then I was curious, because my question was, why did some women able to regain that experience of orgasm and others don't? So I did follow-up qualitative research looking at both men and women with spinal cord injuries. Either they had orgasms and they don't. And I tried to tease out the difference, and I believe I did. And so that's my work in orgasm research. And I've always been, you know, focused on pleasure. I gave myself the name of Prophet of Pleasure many, many years ago. And then in 2006, I was invited to the Road to Recovery conference for seriously wounded veterans. And I got hooked. You know, these folks were really hungry for information. No one had provided it for them in their rehabilitation. And from there, you know, I followed up on that, and I'm soon to release a documentary called Love After War, Saving Love, Saving Lives.
Thank you. That's amazing work. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Now, our next panelist, I'm very proud to call my friend. Her name is Carlana Stone. She's the author of a book called Never Give In, Never Give Up. It's an inspiring story about her life. And she's the first female paraplegic to fly solo. She's an accomplished speaker, a producer, a TV personality who was featured on Oprah, Larry King, and the Doctor's TV show, which we actually did together. So, Carlana, what else do you want people to know about you? How fantastic you are.
That I'm a friend of Ava Cadell's. No, I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you so much. And thank you for the introduction. Currently, I am resurrecting the courage community, which is designed about connecting on the level of the heart. And there's a science to that and a biologic process that comes along with that, that is found in relationships. And relationships are a biologic process as potent as any pill or procedure. And we don't have a paradigm that integrates that into our healthcare or our education, but it bleeds into every aspect of our lives. And when I think about what I'm doing here today with y'all and really discovering how I see myself now versus then, and becoming paralyzed at the age of 16, I was a virgin. And so I've never had sex as anything other than a paraplegic. But becoming a paraplegic at the early age of 16, it resulted in me reaching for something deeper, a connection that transcended the physical, and be able to tap into that. And I'm excited about all of the value that it's brought me and my relationships and continue to. I'm excited to bring that same thing that happens when we're connected, that sense of belonging and being a part of, and how that bleeds into the bedroom and makes us connect on a much deeper level. And the courage community is all about bringing these the intimacy of this room where we can touch and feel one another and experience it, but adding these visceral layers to that storytelling exchange in a virtual space. We're all starved for connection like never before. And I believe that that's where intimacy and sex begins. You know, sex is an act.
Well, we're going to talk about sex more. In fact, I want you to share some stories a little bit later. I just want to sort of introduce everybody first, and then we'll get into the really, intimacies of our discussion, Carlana. Is that okay?
Yes, of course.
Okay, good.
Yes,
so,
of course.
The next panelist is Dr. Kevin Mintz, who I met at the Institute for the Advanced Study of Human Sexuality, where I was actually teaching, and Kevin was in my class, and I just loved having him there. You are the most interactive, vibrant, positive, energetic student I've ever seen, and you're so memorable. And Kevin has an AB from Harvard. He also has an MS from the London School of Economics and Political Science. But Kevin, why don't you tell people what you would like to really know about you? What's important for you, for us to know about you right now and your work?
Well, I have cerebral palsy. I'm also gay, and in an age gap relationship with someone who has Parkinson's disease, and my interests beyond teaching sex ed are in the ethics of sexual health and reproductive technologies with a focus on disability. And I'll just say, in my day job, I don't get to do stuff like this that much anymore. So thank you, Dr. Ava, for allowing me to keep up my sexology credentials.
It's my pleasure. I just adore you and respect you and admire you so much. The next panelist, I'm actually really excited to meet because I've never met her before. Her name is Kelly Gordon. She's a spokesperson for our sponsor today, Heart Octopus, great name. And it's the first sex toy company that I know of to specialize in pleasure products for disabled people, people with limitations. So welcome, Kelly. Can you tell us a little bit about your life growing up and dating as a wheelchair user, and really educate us here?
I'll try my best. So I have spinal muscular atrophy type 3. I've been an electric wheelchair user since I was about 11 or 12. So prior to that, obviously, my condition just progressed to a point. It often does through puberty anyway. So it progressed to a point where obviously I had to kind of give in. I really did see it as that at the time. I saw it as like, I never wanted to be a wheelchair user, quite honestly. I wanted to be able to push my wheelchair around and look like a complete idiot, trying to fight my condition, because I think you're raised in a way that, when we were younger, when I was younger, there was no mainstream media representation of disability, right? So I think that I just felt different, and I wasn't comfortable with that as a youth at all. So I really shied away from the disability community when I was younger, and it's something that I regret now to this day, because my own brother's disabled, we have the same condition, but we were almost scared to be seen together because somebody would always approach us and say, oh, you on a day trip? Where are your carers? It was the constant and you just don't want to deal with that as a teenager when you're trying to be cool and you're trying to start relationships and trying to have sex ultimately. So I completely rebelled, hence the name Pleasure Rebels for the podcast for Hot Octopus, but I completely went the other way and I got myself into a lot of dangerous situations, pursuing sex and a relationship, and I kind of went about it all the wrong way. So my role at Hot Octopus, I suppose, is to work with the team to make the products more inclusive, but also to spread stories and to spread awareness about the sort of things that can go wrong and hopefully help people to learn from my stupid mistakes.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing your vulnerabilities with us, and thank you for the sponsorship that we have today from Hot Octopus. And one lucky raffle winner is going to get a package of goodies, and so is our panel. Actually, they're going to get some goodies too. And
Oh, yes.
I've been promoting Hot Octopus since they first came out with their hands-free male masturbator, which Kevin was so excited about at the Institute. When I showed him that, he was like, yay! So thank you.
Not
Now,
a problem.
Perhaps the most notorious panelist is Asta Philpott. He's a world-famous disability rights campaigner. He's an actor, a singer, speaker, writer, and his life has actually led to 2 movies. So he's also a certified love coach through Loveology University. But I know everybody watching wants to know about your award-winning film, Asta. So I'm going to let you tell us a little bit about it and what inspired you to make it.
Oh, thank you. I'm honoured to be with everyone, and I can relate a lot to Kelly's story. Actually, that I've rebelled a lot in my life, and I also avoided the disability community as well. But I've been on this mission since 2007 to break down the myths of sex and disability and the barriers people have in their minds and preconceptions. And I did a BBC documentary for One Night Only, it was called, in 2007, and it took me and 2 other guys, Lee and Shah, on a road trip to lose our virginities. And to cut a massive long story short, we're in 2021 now, and we've got a Hollywood film made about it called Come As You Are, and we're all over the place. We're on Stars in America, we're on Sky Movies, but it's more about that for me. It's about seeing everyone as human beings, and I think that's where it starts really. And I'm a highly sexual being, and I always have been, and I'm at one with the universe, and I'm at one with myself. And if everyone else was like that, then I'm sure that we'd be having less conversations about sex and disability, and it really shouldn't be a taboo. I just carry on my mission, and my goal is now to have a long-lasting partner that doesn't just see the wheelchair.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Asta. So last but not least is my dear friend and colleague, Tamara Bell, who is the mentor and ambassador of students at Loveology University. And we've worked together for over a decade, and we support each other through thick and thin. So Tamara, her disability is not visible, but clearly she has one that affects the quality of her life, especially her love life. So Tamara, can you just share with us a little bit about that?
Sure. So I was born with lordosis, which is the curvature of your back. So mine curves backwards, and it can be very painful. And I've dealt with it for my entire life, and was married, I have children, and everything was great. What I deal with now is grief. I lost my husband of 34 years, and it has totally 100% changed my being. And it has changed the way I think, the way I act, and I don't look at things as clear as I did before. And a lot of people think that, you know, disabilities are just seen, but they're unseen as well. And so I have really been working towards moving forward with that, so that who knows, one day I will be able to have a, you know, progressive love life. But as of now, it has been put to a halt. And it's been 4 years, and I hope that, I'm not sure how long it will last, but it is a disability for me. And then Dr. Ava, you also have a non-seen disability as well. And do you want to talk about that?
Oh, sure. But I mean, first I experienced something similar that Tamara went through, because my husband was dying of cancer for over a year. And I did my best to maintain intimacy without being able to have, you know, the kind of sex we used to have. So that was very challenging. And my husband's been gone 7 years. And I have another disability, which is chronic pain caused by trigeminal neuralgia, and it's in my face. And I keep it under control, but also that can be a challenge to focus on sexual pleasure too. So I'm just so grateful to all of you for sharing your story, because I know that we can really help people watching, because I'm convinced that everybody's going to have a disability at some point in their life, especially in the bedroom, whether it's a minor one or a major one. And I think we're here today to really help people. So I'd like to ask you all the same question to begin with. And that is, what do you think is the biggest myth about sex and disabilities? And let's start with Dr. Mitchell Tepper.
Oh, I was hoping you weren't going to start with me, because
Really?
I actually don't like to talk about the myths, because it just perpetuates them, you know?
Okay.
And
you know what? I totally
say?
respect that.
You know what I want to say?
What?
Is that you don't have to break your neck to be a great lover, but you could learn a lot from someone who has. And not just from me, but from everybody on this panel, because everyone on this panel has not been able to kind of live up to that ideal that's pushed on us as far as what is sexy, what is sexual, what does sex mean. So every one of us, you know, Carlana and you know, Kelly, people, Tamara, with early onset disabilities had to grow up in a world where they weren't represented, and they had to kind of find their own way, you know, and Asta too, me and Carlana, who you were younger, I was 20s, not much older, but we needed to really look at what we lost and figure out how we could find it. And in the process, I'm sure we all learned more about sexuality than your average person. And so, you know, the average person goes along and they try to compete with and live up to something that's presented to them from the media. And like for men, not to overgeneralize, but basically as long as they could quote unquote perform, they don't question their performance or their sexuality. So there's no growth. So I think when you're faced with disability, whether from birth or it's acquired or a chronic condition, you're forced either to be stagnant or to learn and grow. And I think that every one of us here have learned and grown from our experience. And then we're here to teach not just people with disabilities, but everybody about what it really means to be a human sexuality, a whole person.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. And yeah, and I love that you don't actually want to share anything negative about the taboos and the.
It's just perpetuated. I've been doing this for
You're
over
right. You know
30
what?
years.
I'm gonna scrap that question completely because.
May I take a stab at answering it?
Yes, absolutely, Kalana. Sure.
What was the question exactly about my disability and sex?
It was about myths.
Exactly.
Well, what is
myth.
what is the biggest sex myth that you have had to endure, if you like, or respond to.
Well, see, I don't look at it as endure. It's an advantage.
Yeah, I love that.
It called me to have to connect to something so much deeper that, like, I mean, it gets you to a place where you're able to really engage on another level. And when you have that shared experience and so in tune with your environment, because I believe we're stronger where we break, kind of thing. And for me, it was a sink or swim kind of moment, but I had to figure out of my desperation to belong and be a part of, and not labeled as less than. I carried that, much like several of you shared. And I'm sorry, I'm not wearing my glasses, so I can't remember people's names, but the girl in England really opened it up with regards to how we see ourselves, and how we are all mirrors of our environment. So those stigmas, the labels, the identities that we step into when, for me, for instance, it was a life event that resulted in me going from paraplegic or cheerleader to paraplegic, and that identity, like knocking up against one another and trying to figure that out, but accepting, circa 1985, my only point of reference was of someone in a chair was somebody I wheeled up the aisle at church who had one foot in the grave, or they were discarded as no hopers and you don't belong here. And that's something that I accepted as fact. Some of those things that we hear from someone who was very close to me said, it's going to take a special man to love you. And it's stepping, I'm excited to, that burned an image in my mind, and impressions matter, and they're played out in all of our relationships. And so
you got married after that, right?
Well, yeah, I got married after that, but I also have had a string of really imbalanced relationships where I give myself away and just completely devalue myself, because that's where I started. And when I never, until 52, well, anyway, whatever, that's my whole thing. But really, it's about, we are in a position to open people's eyes to experiences that blast through all the crap we can see, because it's like Tamara was talking about, it's the stuff that it's the stuff, the invisible shrapnel, the stuff that we don't see. That's where we all connect. And when we demonstrate that, in my experience, it allows somebody else to do the same and be vulnerable. And that's where we all kind of connect. And that's where orgasms go out it's just a beautiful thing. And I think that we have an opportunity to really flip the script on the value that we bring and the insight.
Right.
And
I agree. And that's why I have some sex therapists here. And so I want to ask Dr. Kevin Mintz a very important question. What do you wish that doctors and therapists and teachers like myself can do, to help you and to help families and to help anybody with a sexual disability? What is it that you think we need to do?
Well, the simple answer to that question, Eva, is putting it on people's radar screens, because often parents, especially if you're raising a child born with disabilities, you have so much you're dealing with all at one time, and particularly if you're uncomfortable thinking about sex in your own life, which is common for many people. You're not gonna wanna think about your disabled child having a sex life period. But also just to encourage them to ask people what they want
Mhm.
for
Yeah.
themselves if they're able to, and then use the tools of medicine, therapy, etc. to help them
Mhm.
accomplish whatever they want
Mhm.
to do or don't want
Mhm.
to do.
Yeah, communication. I mean, I think people with disabilities actually have better communication than the average person. And even
Right.
people who are in a BDSM community have better expression of boundaries and so forth. So
Can I
thank
make a
you,
comment
Kelly.
on what he just said?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
my mother's a nurse and she takes care of special needs kids for anywhere from spinal bifida, cerebral palsy, and other extreme disabilities. And even though the doctors say, you know, these children won't make it past a certain age or they won't be able to do anything, it's correct what he was saying is that you have to feed that into them. So my mother adopted one of her children and he has spinal bifida. He'll be 18 in September, and
Mhm.
he lives a regular life. Like we continually put positivity into him and to let him know that whatever he wants to do, he can do it. Like they said, he'd never walk, but he walks and he runs now. And, you know, so I agree that you have
Yeah.
to speak that into them so that they can, so they won't just sort of accept the disability and feel like
Right.
they
You give
can't
them
do it.
hope. Yeah, and encourage them.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And ignite the neuro, yeah.
Yeah. So Kelly, I wanted to ask you, what adult toys changed the game for you? And also on the same topic, what is it about the technology of the toys that Hot Octopuss is making that, you know, makes them so unique for people with disabilities?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as well, I just wanted to pick up on the last point just a little bit. So I just wanted to say one thing. So I think as well as obviously doing everything that's spoken about, just making people realize that disability isn't a bad thing is a huge part of education for me. And that if you do have a disability that limits your movement or anything about you, you're still a sexual being. So I feel like it's switching the education up to understand that, yes, okay, I'm a disabled woman, but I can still feel self-love and self-pleasure. And that's really, really important to me. And it's a big part of who I am now. So going on to your next question about adult toys. So I think the thing is with any toy is knowing your body. And for me, I've got limited reach. I've got not great dexterity. So repurposing some toys have been real big game changers for me. For example, using a G-spot stimulator as a clitoral stimulator. It's just got a longer handle. It's still got that little bulb type thing on the top, which can give like targeted stimulation. It's just repurposing things, you know. I think everybody will know this one, but this is one of my top tips, is using a hoist. I think in the US you call them Hoyer lifts, maybe. We call them ceiling track hoists. So I often use that as a sex swing because it's basically the same, but probably safer. And don't quote me on that, by the way. But anyway, so I saw my hoist as something that was so medical and made me feel and look so disabled. And, you know, I was still at a place where I saw that as kind of a negative and something that was unsexy. It's took me a long time to get to the place I'm at now, where I realize my disability is almost, you know, to me as an accessory. It's part of who I am. It makes me who I am, and I love my disability and I wouldn't change it. But for some people it's more difficult, as it was for me in the past. So it didn't come until very recently. I broke my ankle, which is strange in itself as a disabled person, but I was standing to transfer, fell over and broke my ankle. And so I was relying on mobility aids even more than I do in day-to-day life. So anyway, I was using my sex swing. I was using my hoist, and my partner saw me on my hoist, something that I wasn't keen on doing because I always wanted to use it on my own, but because I had this giant cast on my leg, I just couldn't safely use it alone because I was swinging around all over the place and I could have easily smashed my leg up again. So I wasn't. So he saw me on it and he said, you know what, you look really sexy on that. And we just had sex then and there. And it's something revolutionary to me because in my head, I always thought, oh my God, I don't want him to see me on this. Like, it's so medical. I hate it. And then the first thing he was thinking is, that's a really good position to have sex in. So it's just about like repurposing those things and making yourself feel better about them and feel confident with them. Similarly to, you know, there's a lot of things like sex wedges that are absolutely great to help you maintain positions. And that's really important, you know. Sometimes for me, fatigue's a thing, pain's a thing. So being able to do doggy that's not just me flopped on the bed, it's great having something under me, not having to think about holding myself up, and just being able to roll with it and enjoy the pleasure instead of thinking, oh my God, my body's failing, I can't stop this, why is this happening? It's just like, I'm on a comfy pillow and I'm having sex right now.
So positive. I love it.
Thank you.
Asta, when you were in America, we did the documentary where I interviewed you for our course on intimacy and disabilities for Loveology. And I remember giving you some sex toys to take home to England. Now, what is your experience with sex toys?
Yeah, I gave my friend those to take through customs. But God, Kelly's like my double. Like at the hoist, yeah, definitely. And I have an electric bed that goes up and down, and it's great for positioning for oral and stuff. But picking up a bit on what Carla said, I think you know, they're advertising over here the Paralympics, and there's a strap line under it says extraordinary people, and to me, in my experience, it would take an extraordinary person who has slipped into the fifth dimension of consciousness to actually date me and love me. And I don't think I'd accept anything less at the moment. But I love the sex toy thing. I'm gonna have to hit Kelly and see if she can hook me up with something like.
We got you.
This is revolutionary. Like,
so you're very close.
Yeah, I didn't even know you guys existed, to my ignorance.
Oh, I'm so happy that you connected on this. That's great.
It's great. You know, but I love Kevin, and you know, I think we're brave enough to step onto this planet. Other people should be brave enough and have the balls to actually take that leap. If they love someone, then not to look at the physical attributes.
Absolutely, I agree. Carlana used to have a great sex toy that she says she can't get anymore, called the Body Bouncer. It was a little trampoline with a hole in the middle, right?
Yeah.
But what do you
it had little rockers on it. It was like a little rocking chair that had two little kind of aluminum things on the side that almost made it rock, but I was able to get on top and balance, but be on top. And so it had a hole in the middle of the trampoline. It was called the Body Bouncer. And then it came with like this animated little thing of these, you know, pink and blue people that they had forever, and you can't find it anymore. I mean, they would show you like 566 positions you could access.
That's the Kama Sutra.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of toys out here. So I'm gonna look.
But that sounded really good because she
Yeah.
could use the strength of her arms to lift her up.
Yeah, but I
And
want to
she
go
could-
back. I mean, you know, when you go back to, I'm sorry, the girl in England.
Kelly.
Kelly, I'm sorry. Like I said, I'm not wearing glasses. I don't know where they are. So, I loved where you took the repurposing, right?
Mhm.
And being able to go, hey man, you know, these contraptions or whatever you want to call them, you know, this hoist was designed to, my lightweight wheelchair was designed, you know, to make life easier and where I could take it apart and put it in my car and be independent and all that kind of stuff. There are all these different inventions, and necessity is the mother, the birth of whatever's the, but how does that thing go? Necessity is the
Mother of
mother of
invention.
invention, right? Yeah, invention is born from the extreme. No, but that's what we do, and we adapt, and we just take that for granted, you know. But it's actually an untapped intelligence and application to repurpose stuff that we've designed for our worlds that actually we can begin to repackage. That's more of a universal thing that I really love that. I love taking what we've got now and repurposing it and just flipping the script on how we look at it. I think it's rich.
It is.
I say they-
And Dr. Mitchell-Tepper, how do you think the
Just
key
wanted
to
to,
sexual pleasure is? Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to follow up on that. What I tell people as far as when it comes to the logistics of sex is that
Mhm.
three things are important. And this is for people with disabilities and without, but people with disabilities are masters at this. Creativity, adaptability, and then a sense of humor, right? We have to be able to laugh at ourselves, laugh with our partners, and not take this so seriously. But we need creativity, we need our imagination, we need to adapt, whether it's our Hoyer lift or, you know, whatever it is. If it's cathing and you like somebody cathing you, whatever it is, you know, you can adapt and be creative, and that's the real way to get there. And then you know, you could have the wedges and you could have the strap-ons and you could have everything in the world, but you need the creativity, the adaptability, and you need to keep a sense of humor to keep this fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
And
you
I always-
had another question, Ava?
Well, it was basically asking you about what you recommended, you know, for people, and you sort of said it. I mean, you said that they have to have a fun intention, you
Yes,
know. And I always say that enthusiasm is much more important than technique anyway. So we're sort of
absolutely,
saying the same thing.
absolutely.
But you know, I know you're doing all this research. Are you still doing research on?
I
female
don't do
orgasm?
any formal research anymore, but you know, something from my research, really the key to my research really connects with connection with Carlana was talking about. So when I looked at people both who had orgasm and who didn't have orgasm, I was interested in peak sexual experiences. So when I asked people, what was your peak sexual experience? So this is with or without orgasm. They said they need to be with somebody they trusted. They needed to feel safe. And that's not just physical, it's emotional safety. And with trust and safety came connectiveness. And with connectiveness, it had the ability to transcend any physical loss. So any level and completeness of spinal cord injury to lead to pleasure and orgasm. So this phenomenon, which came from qualitative research of connectiveness, was the kind of the magic that took people to the next level. And then I also, you know, do this thing on accessible tantra, and I talk about mindfulness and the yoga of sex. But you know, Ray Stubbs, who I'm sure is a dear friend of yours,
Oh, yes,
right?
I love
I've
him.
learned from him, and he boiled it down to stop, focus, and once again connect. So slow down, you know, those thoughts in your head that you're worried about, you know, you're going to lose control of your bladder, or you're going to, you know, pass gas or whatever. You slow down the activity, you know, focus, you know, set an intention, as you said, pay appropriate attention, and then, you know, connect with your partner. So those are some of the keys: the stop, focus, and connect, and the creativity, the adaptability, and sense of humor. And then in the beginning, for the mindset, the trust, safety, and connectedness.
Yeah, that's
Can
brilliant.
I jump
Brilliant.
in? Can I jump in here? I moving past the physical act of sex intimacy and relationships. I would just like that creativity and sense of humor are key to people with disabilities maintaining relationships too, because there's so much stuff between me and my partner that we have to get through on a daily basis, that if we couldn't laugh about it and work together, we couldn't live together.
He's
I love
totally
your sense of
right.
humor.
Totally,
I love it.
totally right.
Yeah, yeah.
Totally right.
Tamara, you deal with a lot of the students, you know, who are taking our courses, including the one on intimacy and disabilities. Can you tell us anybody that has really influenced you? That I think you were telling me about a woman who whose husband was in the armed forces, right? But she was experiencing a disability herself.
Yeah, so her part of her disability came from trauma, and so being with someone in the military is hard enough. I'm a military wife and a military mom of 3 kids who served, and it's hard. That's a hard process to go through on its own. But so I have been a love coach for over a decade, and I work with everybody. And one of the things that I love about that particular course is a lot of people only look at disability for what they can see. So if they see somebody, you know, in a chair, if they see somebody just, they can physically see that there's a disability, they don't look at anything else. And the course has helped me, like for instance, ASTA has a video on there, and I use in my coaching his story because I loved how he took friends out to see, to experience it at a brothel, not a brothel, but a
brothel.
it's a brothel.
Yeah.
And how when they came out, they were just talking about it, and I think that was a key thing for me to be able to help other people. So when I'm working with students, you know, I tell them pay close attention to that video, because that video really kind of helps you understand what you have to deal with. And you know, with the girl who has her own disability, it has helped her to move forward to where she didn't stay in that traumatic situation and dealing with her own disability, but she sort of stepped out of it and is going out like a regular person, you know, and not saying, oh, I'm disabled, nobody's gonna like me, nobody's, you know. And this course the courses in this university not only teach you, but it helps you with your own life. And
and then, you know, we have our healing course, which is a 7.5-hour course that I created to help people to heal from all aspects of trauma.
Yeah.
So I love to hear the stories of where we actually do help people to evolve.
Yes, the healing, if I could just say this real quick, the healing course, because I lost my husband, pushed me to become a death doula. So I'm a death doula now.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, once you can overcome adversity and find what you're looking for, then a lot of us want to help others. I mean, that's why I am even doing what I'm doing, because I was raised with a lot of abuse and shame and all that stuff. So it was important for me to find a happy, loving, normal relationship. And when I did, I thought, oh, I must share this information with everybody else. Now, Asta, we were talking about peak sexual experiences. So was your trip to the brothel your peak sexual experience, or have you had many others since then? I know you're looking for love, and I think you found it and then you've lost it. I mean, like all of us, we've all been rejected and we've all found and lost love. But tell us about your peak sexual experience.
Yeah, I think the brothel has to come up there at the top of the peak. And you know, talking about going back to what Mitchell was saying about trust and stuff, I went into this place and the girl I was with couldn't speak a word of English, so just saying to her things like, "Oh, can you take my seatbelt off?" Impossible. Like, it took about 10 minutes within my hour. The chunk of my hour took out 10 minutes of asking to take my seatbelt off. So, but once we got round that, and she just jumped on my chair and just went for it. Like, it was just incredible. Like, there's nothing like that feeling. And you know, I go around and every day, and I tell myself and I tell others, you know, I don't know if you've probably heard the saying, know thyself. And as soon as you know yourself, then you will attract. It's like the law of attraction. I'm a big believer in it. You know thyself, and you will attract others towards you who would deserve to be in your arena and give you that incredible sexual experience. And you know, I'm still in touch with a lot of people of the escorts I was with and their friends, and they're incredible, you know. And I have had 2 relationships, and the last breakup was probably the worst feeling I've ever had in my life, because she told me that she wanted to be with an able-bodied person. So for me, that was like, I had to take a step back and think. I started to doubt myself, and then I this thing came back into my head of it's always been through my life, and know thyself. And my parents were really positive with me, and just know me as the incredible being I've come onto this planet, and the incredible sexual being that I've come onto this planet, that I've shown, like you guys, showing the way to other people who have not even stepped or progressed into the next level of consciousness.
Yeah, and Asta, you're one of the most uninhibited people that I know. I mean, I remember Asta was telling me that he went to a nightclub, and they had a dance competition. And he entered the dance competition in his wheelchair. And I think you won, right?
Yeah, it was a big nightclub in a city over here, and you know, full of obviously able-bodied people. And I was like, yeah, I could do this, and I did it, and I won, you know. And it wasn't because I was disabled. It's because I was bloody good at dancing, and I had no doubt about that. It's like, have no doubt about yourself and your abilities.
Absolutely. You know, you're such an inspiration to all of us.
May I just say one thing about that 5th dimension?
Sure.
That Aster's referenced, and you actually just said it yourself. And I would love to ride in your wake as far as you paving that road and lighting the way to the 5th dimension, which is connecting to something so much that there's a vulnerability and a some people, when you see you, Aster, you want to know what's inside of you, and how do I get some of that? And it's rich. And I just think that's when we're all marooned on the oases of doubt, and everybody, regardless of whether they have a disability that they call a disability, or the 75% of us that have pre-existing trauma in our lives that impact all kinds of stuff in our environments. But, you know, we're all starved for connection like never before. People are knocked off their equilibrium looking for answers and ways to connect from afar.
Yeah.
And
People are always looking for something else without experiencing the pure bliss that we have now. And I don't even have to touch myself anymore to experience an orgasm. I could just sit right there and
You can do it telepathically. I mean,
right.
literally, you can. That's what our friend Dr.
you know yourself.
Right?
So rich. Thank you.
Hey, Tamara, before we end,
Definitely.
we are.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
you
are.
really curated such a beautifully safe space here. And I thank each and every one of you, and I'm beyond honored to have been a part and connect with all of y'all. And Ava, I don't know if you do reunions or whatever you call it, you know, but please, I'd love to connect with any and all of you, and let's do this thing. Let's begin to make.
Carlana, you're divorced. Are you single now, Carlana?
That's a loaded question. I'm actually,
I'm trying to do some matchmaking here.
I am, I've been living with, I'm divorced, and I moved from Los Angeles to Austin about 5 years ago. And that's when I kind of realized, oh shit, I'm paralyzed. Of course, aren't we all? But, yeah, I've had to go to the dark side to get back to the light here. And I've been living with a friend of my boyfriend up until a few months ago, because I moved into a different room. So we're still living together, but I've known him from he was the first guy I hooked up with after I was paralyzed.
Wow.
Who, told me I could be sexy, or showed me that somebody else thought I could be sexy. It took me a long time to actually believe it myself. But anyway, so
you are single. Okay. That's what I wanted to know. Single, single. Are you married, Mitch?
Me, I am married.
I thought so. I thought you were married.
Kelly's not single.
I like how you're asking that question. I'm not single. No, I'm.
No, I said Kelly's not single.
Her man is so in tune. He's going.
My man is the guy that I met on Tinder and then got pregnant within 5 weeks. So nobody wants to find one of those.
Good call. Good call.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Crazy life.
And Kevin, are you single?
No.
No, he's got a partner who's got CP. Wait, no, you have CP. Your partner has
Parkinson's.
Parkinson's, right? Parkinson's. No, I loved all the aspect of humor, because that center brain. That's where we feel like we belong. We forget about all the other crap, and you are just this joy that bursts on the scene, man. Like double rainbow kind of joy.
Asta, you finally found somebody who's as expressive as you are.
Yes.
Can you just choose someone to win the Hot Octopus package, please? Some lucky student, or maybe some lucky person who is, not a student of anything. They're just watching us because they have a fantastic topic that they want to know more about.
I just pulled up, and it is one of your students.
Oh.
And her name is April Swift.
April Swift.
That's a great name.
Yeah.
It is a good name. So what is she going to get, Kelly?
To be honest, I am not sure. I should hope. Our marketing team have sent something amazing, I'm sure. So let's go through these.
Oh,
We've
tell
got the
us right
curve.
there.
I think she's getting the curve
And the pulse solo.
But I think this is her pack.
Right, okay. So the curve is the amazing G-spot vibrator that I was discussing earlier. It's got a really squishy tip. It's amazing. Also, the buttons are really easy to press and can actually be pressed with other body parts because they are quite loose. In fact, one turned on in my box the other day because it's so loose. So So that's great for people with dexterity issues. There we go. And the Pulse Solo is that male vibrator.
Hands-free.
Yeah, hands-free. So we do actually have the Pulse Duo as well, which is a couple's toy, and it's got a vibrating plate on the outside for a vulva owner as well. So I definitely recommend checking that one out too.
That's fantastic. What is Hot Octopus working on now? How do you see the future of sex toys, you know, for people with limitations?
Yeah, so we're working on a lot of new toys. Obviously, I'll keep you all posted on that. But just, I think from my position as inclusivity lead over here at the brand, we are focusing on complete inclusivity in terms of not just our products, but our marketing campaigns, the people we speak to, the research we get. It's so important for us. You know, Hot Octopus was started by people on the outside, people that saw themselves as weirdos and people that didn't fit the mold. So it's the perfect brand to represent us, people with disabilities that are creative, awesome, sexual. So we're really embracing that in all of our campaigns now. And we are working with people, not just in disability focused campaigns, but to ensure that there's inclusivity throughout every single campaign. So you can see that from us in the future.
Thank you so much. Actually, Dr. Kevin Mintz, I wanted to ask you before we go, to what extent are the barriers that you and others with disabilities face in terms of sexual expression? Can you share? I know this is something I think you said you were working on right now.
Yeah, it's actually most of my sexuality work. And I just wanted to make sure people watching this video recognize that a lot of the barriers we all come from are not because of our limitations necessarily. Those are flexible and adaptable, like Mitch said. But when we can't get into gay bars or strip clubs or really anywhere else where other people in non-pandemic times get to meet and interact with people on a quote-unquote normal basis. That's a barrier to sexual expression more than whether you physiologically can have a wet orgasm or not.
Oh, you're awesome.
Yeah. Thank you. All right, you are. I want to thank you all for really sharing your inspiring stories and for educating all the viewers. And this brings us to the end of our Sexpert panel. So I'm very, very grateful to you, Dr. Mitchell Tepper. It's so good to see you. I've been wanting to work with you forever.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing this panel together. I mean, this is a superstar panel.
It is. And Dr. Kevin Mintz, I'm so proud of you. Oh my God. You really are an incredible force of loving energy. Carlana Stone, my dear friend, I haven't seen you in way too long. This girl is incredible. I used to see her driving a Harley Davidson everywhere. And Asta Philpott, you see the compliments you got today, you're going to find true love. I know you are. It's going to be the right person at the right time.
We'll see you in the fifth dimension, buddy. It's
Absolutely.
yeah,
We're traveling there.
Yeah, and Kelly Gordon, what a pleasure.
Teach.
You're fantastic.
you.
Thank you for sharing your story, and please thank Hot Octopus for sharing their products with us. And then, of course, my dear, dear friend and colleague, Tamra Bell. I know this was sort of an emotional thing for you to share, you know, your disabilities. We've never done that before. So I'm just very grateful to all of you for making the world a better place. And for everybody watching, next month we'll be back with a new Sexpert panel, with a new sponsor, a new topic. But until then, live to love and love to live. Thank you so much, all of you.
Thank
Love
you.
Thank you, Ava, for lighting the way. I just love you so much.
I wish we were all like in the same room.